This morning on the Now Morning Show, we are giving you school survival tips for the parents, the students, maybe even the teachers, as we check in with the Children's Authority in the Spotlight.
Inside your spotlight this morning, we have team lead of the assessment unit at the Children's Authority, Ahhalia Ramdass. Good morning to you, Ahhalia.
Good morning.
Welcome back. So we're getting ready to start the new school term. We do have an extra week of vacation, and I'm sure some of the children are celebrating. I don't know if the parents are celebrating. The teachers might be as well. But tell me some of those conversations that parents should be having with their children, or should have been having already, as we prepare for the new school term, when it comes specifically to things like let's say bullying, peer pressure, that sort of thing.
Well, we do have an extra week, and if you haven't started preparing your child for school just yet, now is your moment to shine, to get that in. So in addition, so we're going to get to the talking about bullying and peer pressure, but gentle reminder to parents to be sure that you start preparing your child physically for the return to school. So waking them up early, making sure they shower, get dressed.
Get into the routine.
Just get into the routine. It's going to make your first week of school much easier if you start preparing them from now. So their earlier bedtimes and their wake-up times. So start from now, guys. It doesn't have to be the exact wake-up time. So if you're usually waking up at 6 o'clock for school, start winding back. So if you're waking up at 10 during the vacation, wake them up an hour earlier for 2 days, then an hour earlier for 2 days until you eventually get to that wake-up time, just to get them prepped. And, you know, bedtimes, same. Yeah. Right, so and you should also start having those conversations. So unfortunately, over the years, we have seen a rise in bullying behaviors. We have seen a rise in just generally fights and aggression in our schools. And so we want to prepare our children as much as possible for that reality when they hit schools. We want to talk to our children very openly about bullying, what bullying is, so whether they have displayed bullying behavior in the past, whether they have been a victim in the past, whether they are typically bystanders to bullying. We want to talk to them about what bullying is, the harmful impact of bullying on all parties involved, and prepare them mentally to identify when this kind of behavior is happening around them or to them, and giving them the assurances that they can come to their parents, they can go to their teachers, their deans, and other officials in school to report instances of bullying, to keep themselves safe, to keep others safe. And also important to have conversations with your children who can help decrease instances of bullying by modeling and displaying kind and inclusive behavior to all children within their spaces.
Tell me the difference between bullying and peer pressure.
So bullying is a pattern of behavior that is intentional, it is harmful, it is repetitive, and it focuses on a power imbalance. Then I'm going to use my perceived power over you for whatever reason, and there are various reasons that persons who engage in bullying engage in that behavior, right? Peer pressure, even though we are accustomed to using it in the negative way, peer pressure is just that influence that a peer group or a person in your peer group exerts over another to influence or to change your attitudes, values, beliefs, behavior about something. It can be positive, but more often when we talk about peer pressure, it's the negative side of things that we talk about, right? And so it's also important, if you're preparing your child to return to school, to talk to them about peer pressure. Once you've raised your child to be grounded with certain values and certain attitudes, you know, you reinforce those and you gently remind them that it's okay to say no if they're being asked to do something they know to be wrong. It's okay to speak out. It's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to report something that doesn't quite sit well or that goes against the rules. And I want to underscore, I may sound like a broken record every time I come in the program, how important it is to have a genuine and build a genuine relationship with your children so that these conversations are so much easier to engage in, and that you, the parent, are able to identify when something is off or amiss with your child because you know them.
Now, I mean, we keep talking about it, and you mentioned it before in terms of creating that safe space where your child feels comfortable to tell you about the things that are going on in their life, in school or wherever else. How do you encourage, or how would you advise parents to create a safe space to be able to have their child come and tell them about, you know, the bullying that's happening in school, if they are being bullied in some cases?
So I'm going to start with a disclaimer. Keeping secrets from your parents is a typical reaction in adolescence.
Yeah.
In childhood, less so, and they may keep secrets out of fear of getting in trouble or fear of making a problem worse, especially if it's bullying.
Right.
But in adolescence, it's natural, even if you have a good relationship with your parents, to try and just keep some things to yourself. However, parents and caregivers, whether your grandparents, aunts, uncles, guardians, having that relationship or creating that safe space rather with your child is about having a genuine relationship. So getting to know them, getting to know their interests, the things that they like, their strengths, spending time with them, doing some of these activities, openly talking with them about life, hearing their thoughts, hearing their opinions, just creating that space for them without judgment, without anger, without, oftentimes we hear certain topics of conversation and we get upset and we respond emotionally to shut things down. But that's not necessary. Even if your child is speaking about something that you don't quite agree with, it's not how they were raised, hear them out. Hear what their thoughts are, the direction they're going to go with it. And then you reinforce the values you would like to hear, or you give the information they may not have that might be missing, and you just have that discussion and create that open space. We're oftentimes quick to shut down anything and everything that just doesn't seem to sit well with us. And
well,
not
like
having
nipping it in the bud. That's not somebody advice we get as well.
But then what does that reinforce? That reinforces you can nip something in the bud, but giving the space to just hear where it goes. Because even if they're talking about something that you don't quite agree with, it doesn't mean that they believe that or they're going to do that. Maybe they're curious about it. Because part of their developmental trajectory, what they do in that stage, that adolescent stage, is question things about themselves or things that they've been raised to believe, because they are preparing themselves to become adults. Where do I stand? What are my actual beliefs? What do I think about this? So they're just exploring, they're questioning things. It doesn't mean that they're going to go down a path that you don't quite agree with. So give them this space. When we automatically jump to shut things down, or when we react in an aggressive manner or in a closed manner, it teaches them to then clam up, because I can't come to you and talk to you if every time I try to express something, you shut me down. And so when it comes to bullying and peer pressure, because there's that anxiety and that fear attached to making it worse if my parents get involved, if you react that way, then it's going to reinforce to them, okay, maybe I definitely can't talk to them, because they're going to go in school, they're going to make a scene, it's going to make me a bigger target, it's going to become worse. But if you remain calm, if you get the facts, if you talk it through, if you reassure them and you talk to them about what they would like to do, what's the plan, and even if they say, I don't want you to do anything about it, you take the moment to teach them, well, this is what can happen if we do nothing about it. And if we do this step or that step, this is what could happen instead. So you take the opportunity to include them in that. You don't rush or fly off the handle. Yes, you're afraid for them, but
you also have the opportunity to hear what their concerns are if you were to do something as well.
Because your concerns may not be their concerns, right? And so you want to hear from them and make them a part of the response as well, because that will give them a little bit of safety and assurance that, okay, we're going to handle this in a way that is going to be safe for me as well.
In terms of, back to the preparation as we're getting ready for schools, you mentioned saying no, which is obviously one very vital aspect of it. But are there other ways that they can handle bullying, other phrases that maybe you can teach them, or advice that you can give them, instead of just, sometimes, no's should be enough, and we know that, right? But in theory, are there other things that we should be adding to the Rolodex?
So when we're teaching our children skills, this is a survival skill, and we're teaching them new lessons, we want to try and model how conversations could go or situations could go, to give them that confidence in the moment and to try out different things, how it would sound. So in addition to saying no, you can teach them to rephrase the question. So you've asked me a question.
What else do we say instead of no?
No, ask like if you're if we're both in school and you're trying to influence me to do something.
You want to go and thief that apple from Miss Desk? Like it looking real juicy though, you don't find?
But should we really be thieving that apple from Miss?
We're not really thieving it, we're just borrowing it and we eat it and we go just
when
bring
you're
it back
planning to
tomorrow.
give it back to Miss?
when we get another apple.
Come on, man, you know thieving is not the way. Let's.
But that might be long-term borrowing.
Nah, that's nah. Let me see what snacks Javon bring and see if we could
So
just.
we taking Javon snacks
We're
instead?
not taking it. We asking Javon.
So we can ask Miss for the apple?
We could ask Miss.
But she just not here yet, so we ask her
Nah,
after
but we're
we eat
waiting
it.
for Miss to come. If listen, Miss coming back, 5th period, we'll ask Miss if we could get an apple.
But here's the thing, right, Ahhalia? If you're going down that road with that back and forth, the child now has to be able to have that back and forth with the wit, with the quickness. How do you train a child for that?
So these are life skills, right? So you
Right.
train a child by giving them opportunities. So oftentimes in the home, when challenges arise, as parents, we want to fix it one time. We don't allow the child to reason through, to identify what the actual issue is and to reason through it or talk through it. We're quick to just shut it down. So we either do it ourselves because, you know,
It's
we
easier,
believe that
yeah.
it's easier or they can't do it. Or you just want to solve it for them to make their life simpler, easier. If we don't provide them with the opportunities to think through things, talk through things, then they don't have the ability to flex those skills and to grow those skills. So we want to create those opportunities. So when something arises, conflict between their siblings or their cousins or in the home, instead of rushing to say, don't do, or, you know, stop that, or just issue a consequence, you talk it through with them. Okay, let me hear what actually happened. Hear their sides, hear their thoughts. How do you think we could have done this differently or done this better? It doesn't mean that you're not going to, if they've done something wrong that deserves a consequence, that
Right.
we're not going to apply the consequence, but we're giving the opportunity to talk through things. And it's also why we say to model these kinds of conversations with your children. So if somebody comes up to you and say, let's go thief that boy's phone, what are you going to say? And then you work it through with them. Just like how we did a little demo here, you talk it through with them and you can give them hints. So if they completely went off and they didn't do what you expected them to do, okay, well, you didn't quite get that. How about you try and say this instead? Or how does that feel? Or what else do you think you
But
could have
should we
said?
be assessing then why they went down the wrong way instead?
But maybe they just haven't had the opportunity to do that to have that kind of conversation.
Okay.
And if it is, they can't say no and they can't navigate a conversation to deflect from that. So
Yeah.
they're not brave enough to talk through the value or to, you know, just point out, hey, Tiffany is wrong. We shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
How about we just ask, miss, right? Then you tell that alternative. If somebody asks you to do something that you're not comfortable, that you know to be wrong, then, and if you can't say no, then say, hey, you get a buddy, a pair that, you know, shares your same values. You know, you have that little backup, that little buffer. This man asked me to go thief the apple. You know, what do you think about that? And maybe they're able to step in and help you.
yeah.
Or if it is something that you know it to be very wrong and you don't want to engage in that, go and tell an adult.
All right.
Yes.
Now, we don't have much time left earlier, but in terms of the aspects of bullying, cyberbullying has changed the game completely.
Yes.
So all these things that we're talking about, I feel as though they almost don't apply to cyberbullying because yes, you can go to complain to your parents or tell them what's going on if you're in your online situations, as the case may be. Is it easier or more difficult to be able to navigate the cyberbullying aspect of things?
I would say it's more difficult because if you're being bullied in a setting, you can avoid that setting. You can go get help and all of these things more readily. You know, you have support with you. Cyberbullying takes you to that space where it can happen any and everywhere because we always have a device with us. We always have a phone, we always have something. And so it can reach you even in your safe spaces.
But you could also like scroll past it or
You can,
delete
but
it.
how realistic is that?
I mean, for me, it's very realistic. I just ignore
How
everything
easy
online.
is that when we live in an age and a time where our children are online more often than not, and that has become the space that they want to be online, virtual spaces, social media platforms, all of these things. So it's the in thing. It's what is popular. It's what gives them their form of entertainment and all of these things. So saying just switch it off, just delete it, just walk away from it. It's not so easy, right? And it goes with us wherever we go. And it hits us in our safe spaces. So our room is no longer a safe space because the bully is in the room with us.
So we still have to utilize the same skills we're
Right?
talking
So
about.
we still have to be able to teach our children how to identify cyberbullying, right? How to identify when someone is being mean or rude or, you know, trying to isolate us, or, all of these things. We have to explicitly teach to our children what these types of behaviors look like, teach them the impact and how detrimental it can be, because the impact of bullying, it's not a today for tomorrow kind of fix. You talk to the bully, you stop them, and all of a sudden you feel better, right? It puts children and adolescents at risk of mental health concerns that perpetuate into adulthood: anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation. It has pushed some children and adolescents, so there's no too young or children that age wouldn't do that, that have committed the act, have completed the act based on being bullied, based on that fear and that isolation that these types of behavior, have created for them. So we want to face everything head on, right? It's no longer a time when we could assume that our children know particular things or to trust that they would have learned it in school or some other space.
You ought to be the one to teach it to them.
Be an active parent. Teach your child from very young, because the younger you teach your children how to identify certain behaviors, it's the more readily they're able to keep themselves safe. But also, the younger you teach your children to be kind, to model kindness, to be inclusive.
Then we'll have less bullies to worry about
you're
in the first
raising
place.
children who are not likely to engage in that type of behavior. Not likely. It's not a given. The reasons behind bullying are complex. It's multifaceted as well. So,
and some are out of our control. But do your part.
Of our control. But
do your part is all we're asking you to do this morning. Ahhalia, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing these tips as we get ready to head back to school. We're going to take a quick break and come back with more in our morning show. Stick around.